Before the outrage and the headlines, there were the videos, two of them, 10 minutes each. And together, they tell a story you can't see any other way. First, Abby Martin, on the ground, no filters, no spin, just raw footage of individuals in Israel speaking about Palestinians with shock and disregard for their humanity.
The whole world has to isolate this rogue, apartheid, genocidal, maniac, serial killing, pathologically lying state, isolate it, shame anyone who goes there. Academics, celebrities, politicians, and they've been exposed for what they are. And Zionism's on its last leg. It only exists by the weight of its propaganda, and that propaganda has collapsed entirely. The world sees Israel for what it is, and it can't last for long in its current state. You cannot expect change in a society this far gone. It is full-throated fascist. And that's why they act the way they do, with full, total impunity, because they have no humanity left. This is a society so far gone with protection of a military empire with hatred in their hearts. And we're seeing essentially the Fourth Reich today marching forward, and there's no allied forces coming to save us. The Israeli Knesset just passed a law allowing the execution of Palestinian prisoners, but not Israelis. This is the true face of apartheid Israel. But this is nothing new. I saw this firsthand when I was in Israel back in 2016. Full-throated fascism.
You can't deal with these people. There's no need to try. There's no need to talk to them. There's only one way. I would carpet bomb them.
You would carpet bomb them?
It's the only way you could deal with it.
I didn't realize this. I didn't realize how viscerally, grotesquely genocidal Israelis were. How openly fascist they would be to anyone.
Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Shouldn't marry Arabs. Why do you feel strongly about that?
Because Jews is a special nation that God gave it to the Jews. We don't want the Arabs to be here.
They knew that they were on camera. That's what's so alarming to me, too. I wasn't trying to hide. I wasn't doing gotcha journalism. I was going up with a camera and saying, generally, what do you think about the situation?
I think Israelis have to take over and they have to kick them away.
I was so horrified and alarmed at the genocidal rhetoric that was being espoused. Every single person, for every generation, every walk of life, they wanted ethnic cleansing. They said we should nuke them. One little girl laughing, we should kill all Arabs. Kill all Arabs.
We need to kill Arabs. No.
It shows you the impunity back then. The arrogance to just assume this is what you guys think too, right? You're an American. You agree with me. You guys have been doing the same thing. This is who we are. We're proud racists. We're proudly fascist. I felt like I was walking into Berlin in 1932. I really felt absolutely disgusted. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, just walking a couple steps, and as white as I am, are you Arab? Are you Arab? And I'm like, what? I'm an American. Oh, good. We can talk about Arabs then. We can talk about how much we hate Palestinians. I saw the writing on the wall back then. I saw that there's no hope from within Israeli society. I went to rallies where they were calling to kick all the refugees out. You know, these were things that we're told Israel's a safe haven for Holocaust survivors, for genocide survivors. Well, why are all the African refugees put out in the middle of the Negev desert into a concentration camp? Why don't they want any African refugees there? They tokenize Ethiopian refugees, but then they make them take Depo-Provera birth control because they don't want them to reproduce. This is the nature of Israeli society. It's an ethno-state, and it's built on supremacy and hate, because that's what Zionism is.
How many civilians have been killed in Gaza, from what you know?
Who gives a shit?
Okay, but don't you feel like, for example, children?
Children grow up to be Arabs.
You have to continue to expel, you have to continue to kill to keep that artificial majority in place.
If you gave me a button to just erase Gaza, every single living being in Gaza would no longer be living tomorrow, I would press it in a second. I would press it right now. Give me that button and press it right now. There you go. And I think most Israelis would.
During the Gaza genocide, to see people just proclaim out in the open the genocidal incitement.
It's an entire nation out there that is responsible.
אנחנו משמידים את כל מה שעוד נשאר מהרצועה, ולא משאיר אבן על אבן, גם מים אנחנו לא צריכים לתת לרצועת עזה. אנחנו מפרקים את עזה, ומשאירים אותה כאויי חרבות, עם הרס מוחלט וחסר תקדים בעולם.
זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק, נצטווינו. אנו זוכרים, ואנו נלחמים.
It was heinous and horrifying, but finally people saw Israel for what it is. It's all been exposed. They're not hiding anymore.
כל ילד, כל תינוק בעזה, אויב.
אני רוצה להעיף אותם, להשמיד אותם עד האחרון בהם.
אם מעזה אתם תמשיכו לרעוב, תמשיכו למות, בתים שלכם ימשיכו להישרף.
אני לא חושב שיש מישהו במדינת ישראל, בארץ ישראל, שצריך לרחם על העזתים האלה. לא על מבוגרים, לא על קשישים, לא על צעירים ולא על ילדים. מבחינתי שירעבו למוות, מה אכפת לי מהם?
אנחנו שורפים להם את הכפר. כתוב שאנחנו שורפים להם את הכפר.
Israel's propaganda is not working anymore because for the first time, Palestinians have been able to just show us the unvarnished truth of the reality that they endure on a daily basis. We see the settler terrorism. We see the people getting mowed down for doing nothing. We see the crimes every single day. You cannot hide genocide from us. So the propaganda has become cartoonish.
I'm very puzzled by the constant concern which the world is showing for the Palestinian people and is actually showing for these horrible, inhuman animals.
It's inverted just everything that we know to be true. Black is white, up is down. It's the most moral army in the world. We're a benevolent empire spreading human rights and democracy. Who the hell believes this anymore? So it's become silly. It's become absurd.
The Israelis today is saying that Hamas use Palestinians as human shields. Do they?
Killing the victims, then blaming the victims for killing themselves. I mean, what is this logic?
They infantilize us. They treat us like children.
This is a genocide happening in front of our eyes.
We have, that word is, as you know, incredibly emotive, and the Israelis, as you know, will be saying that they are targeting Hamas only.
It's become so obvious that we're being dictated to, that our reality is curated by tech overlords who are profiting off the infrastructure of genocide, of the surveillance of our lives. All of these things are interconnected. So the propaganda doesn't work anymore. It's too infantilizing and stupid.
One day after describing it as a tragic mishap, Israel has now claimed a deadly double strike on a Gaza hospital was prompted by the discovery of a Hamas camera.
A Hamas camera is why they blow up journalists at a hospital, because they have a camera that was belonged to Hamas. I mean, it just makes corporate media journalists and establishment journalists look like buffoons, doesn't it? For towing this absurd propaganda that's so hollowed out and childlike. They should be ashamed of themselves.
We have some really disturbing new information out of Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman just confirmed babies and toddlers were found with their heads decapitated.
There's no excuse whatsoever. They are complicit in this. But you see Israel buying up media outlets.
But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefield in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are in social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is TikTok. TikTok, number one.
You see Israeli billionaires trying to tamp down on the narrative. They're desperate. They're desperate because they know that's the only way they'll survive, is to try to convince the world of the opposite of what we're all seeing. So that's why you see these desperate, pathetic influencers just spewing lies.
I'm here in Gaza, and all I see is food, water, and opportunity. But instead of Hamas distributing the ramen noodles, they're eating it all, and that's why their leaders are on Ozempic.
Because that's all they have left. They don't have anything anymore. But it's too late. We're never going to forget what it looks like when Palestinians hold their children in plastic bags. No one can forget that. I'm never going to forget the sound of a drone emitting a crying baby so it can massacre children who come out of their homes.
واتكاب ترقط لصوت أطفال الآن مخيم إثارات امبارح استشهدوا شاب طلع مسكين يشوف إيش الصوت في مدرسة طبعا بدأ والله قنصفه
and get lured like a cat and mouse. No one's going to forget that. No one's going to forget what it looks like in Gaza today. You can't wash that away. You can't paper over that with degenerate propaganda, base level lies. No one's going to paper over the unvarnished truth of what we've all witnessed for years now. Now, this is urgent. If you care about independent media, if you care about stories like this, you must support it.
And here's the part almost no one mentions. Palestinians are a Semitic people too. So why isn't that rhetoric ever called anti-Semitic? Why does that word only move in one direction? Because the next video comes from a completely different angle. Tucker Carlson isn't defending what you just saw. He isn't denying it. He's saying something else entirely. That America is not responsible for this. That America shouldn't be dragged into foreign conflicts. And that America should focus on solving American problem first. This is his whole point. And even that triggered backlash.
One of the reasons why this was particularly notable for many people, that interaction that you had with Mike Huckabee, and the reason you in particular got so much pushback is because there is an enormous sensitivity around Israel being the homeland of the Jewish people and the attempt to delegitimize that.
I have enormous sensitivity about the United States being the homeland of my people and the burial place of my ancestors. I have enormous sensitivity about the future of the United States. Those are my concerns. I'm not dismissing the concerns of any other group, including Israelis or Iranians or Venezuelans or anybody else. Everybody has his or her own set of concerns, but my concerns revolve around my country. And so I'm not going to subordinate my concerns and the concerns of my children to other people's hysteria, no matter what country it is.
Why do you think you get tagged so often with anti-Semitism?
Because I think there are two reasons. One is I'm not an anti-Semite, and I think that's obvious. And I've expressed this many times, and I'll do so again, I have temperamental and religious objections to anti-Semitism or any hate or discrimination based on bloodline that is against Christian theology. It's against my personal ethics, and I oppose it no matter who is suffering from it, whether it's whites or blacks or Jews. Nobody can be punished for his bloodline, period. I don't believe in collective punishment, unlike the Israeli government. So that's number one. I am opposed to anti-Semitism, and that's a threat because I'm not approaching this as someone who wants to hurt Jews. I just don't want the United States to be implicated in the crimes of other nations, and I'm not intimidated. And number two, that is a much easier conversation than answering very simple questions like, where does the right to exist come from that Israel has, that I've been told for many years has a unique right globally to exist? Where does that right emanate from? Who granted that right and on what grounds? And they can't answer the questions, and they don't want to have the conversation. So just to be totally clear, asking questions is not hate. Telling the truth is not hate. And they don't want to answer the questions, and they don't want to tell the truth. And by the way, it's not just Jews. I think I've been attacked more viciously by Christian Zionists than I have by Jews, just in point of fact. It's a kind of nice universalism to it. But I'm not intimidated. I don't know why I would be. In fact, I think it's my obligation not to be intimidated.
Can asking questions, though, stir up hate? I mean, language is powerful.
Well, sure. I mean, you could pose attacks in the form of questions. I've certainly done that a lot, for sure. But the questions themselves hang in the air, and a legitimate question deserves an answer.
The reason I want to press on this a little bit more is that you know that there is an entire anti-Semitic worldview that has been based on the protocols of the elders of Zion, that there is like this cabal of powerful Jews that controls the world. And, that book was written in the early 20th century, but it, helped the Nazis, and it really has informed a lot of the views of many people today that there is, this very powerful sect of Jewish people who want global war and global conflict. And I think that there is a concern that I have, and a real concern. I don't mean this as something that people say to slander anyone, but just a real concern that the rhetoric where everything is blamed on Israel, where Israel has these supernatural powers almost to influence the president, to influence the previous president, George W. Bush, to enter into the Iraq War, to be involved in assassinations, et cetera, that it has echoes of that, and that people are genuinely concerned that it opens the door to this idea that has been debunked and has been used in, absolutely vicious ways to annihilate an entire people.
I'm not quite sure what that means. Let me tell you my concerns. My main concern is the destruction of the United States. And that is in no way to minimize anyone else's concerns, but I have a right to that concern. And I will not have my own concerns hijacked. I will not submit to being told what my concerns should be. I'm an adult man who pays his taxes. I have a right to come up with my own hierarchy of concern. And at the very top is the destruction of my country, which I've lived in for 56 years. And I know that it's not better than it was. And it's not getting better than it was. And there are many reasons for that. One of them is this war, but there are many others. And so people say, well, I'm really concerned. Well, I'm really concerned too. I'm really concerned that the Prime Minister of Israel and his many cheerleaders in American media, including at the New York Times, if I can say, pushed the U.S. government into a war that hurts the United States. That's my concern. And I would say that's at least co-equal with anyone else's concerns. So that's the first thing I would say. Second, as to the elders of Zion or whatever, I don't know what that is. I've heard references to it. It's like a czarist forgery or something. Look,
I guess I'm just wondering what the line is for you.
The line for me is the truth. What is actually happening?
Between criticism. I mean, this is, by the way, a very difficult line. I am in no means purporting to understand necessarily where it is. I'm curious for you where the line is between criticism of the state of Israel and how that could be perceived as feeding into anti-Semitism.
Well, it breaks my heart that it is perceived that way, and that's the product. That perception is the product of a decades-long effort to conflate anti-Semitism with any criticism of the secular government of Israel. Okay, so the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism lists 11 examples of anti-Semitism, and that's been adopted globally. 40 different governments have adopted it as their standard of what anti-Semitism is, and 2/3 of the examples are criticism of Israel. So, I don't get to write these standards. I also don't have to abide by them. And I reject, as ludicrous, out of hand, the idea that the criticism of a secular government is the same as criticism of an entire ethnic group, many of whom do not support that secular government, many of whom reject that secular government, and a lot of those I know personally. So you're just not going to get me on board with the lie that criticism of Netanyahu is hatred of all Jews, because it's not. And I don't care how many times someone repeats that to me. I don't care. And by the way, I've lost friends over this, and I do grieve that. People who are totally convinced that criticism...
Is it just Bibi that you're against, or if there was a different government in Israel, it
I'm
would be okay?
I'm against anything that hurts my country. Why wouldn't I be? I live here.
No, but I'm just curious, like if there's elections coming up and if Bibi gets kicked out, are you...
I took my family on vacation there.
I'm just trying to understand.
Obviously, I'm not against Israel. I never have been against. By the way, you can check the record. Before maybe 2.5 years ago, I don't think I ever, well, I certainly never criticized Israel, but I rarely even mentioned Israel. I could give you a long list of the things that I love about Israel, particularly about Jerusalem, which is one of my favorite cities. Jerusalem and Beirut, greatest cities in the world. It kills me to see them at the center of all of this. I think the second that we ban criticism of a foreign country, well, of course, we're not free at that point. We're slaves of that other country. Whatever you can't criticize is the force in charge. I don't think it's, by the way, good for global Jewry to have any of this at all. If you tell 350 million Americans that it's against the law, and it's very close to against the law at this point, it's against the law to criticize Israel, how does that help the perception? Does that feed anti-Semitism? I think it does. Not as my job to monitor or regulate this stuff, but I mean, just common sense would tell you that's not good. If you want to make the case on behalf of anything, any idea, including ones I disagree with, make your case. Tell me why it's a good idea. And we're falling out of that habit and instead trying to hurt people who disagree with us. And I just will always reject that.
Now put the two videos together. One shows the dehumanization of a people. The other shows Tucker Carlson speaking as an American taxpayer who believes the United States must step back, not risk complicity with a foreign government. Two videos, two perspectives, but yet one full picture. And now the double standard. Criticize China. No one says you hate Chinese people. Criticize Saudi Arabia. No one accuses you of hating Muslims. Criticize Russia. No one claims you hate Russians. But criticize the Israeli government, and suddenly it's about identity, not politics, not policy. So, who wrote the rule books and who is supposed to enforce it?
If this breakdown gave you something to think about, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And stay tuned for another episode of What is Going On Media, where we make the complicated clear.